Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPclub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPclub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPclub.lv today and get a generous 200% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. And make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPclub.lv. Visit VIPclub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPclub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this was the college football debut of Three Men in a Box. We did this during the spring, college baseball with Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills. Well, tonight we're going to start with Two Men in a Box, as Quentin had another obligation this afternoon. But first, shout out to our new sponsor, Mr. VIPclub.lv. Always use the ECSI promo code at checkout. Tell them JD sent you, and they'll take good care of you. So without further ado, let's bring in the co-star of this show, the one and only, the return of Mr. Matt Grissom. What is up?
Man, just living the dream. Going from college baseball into college football. This is an exciting year. I think everybody's optimism's still high, except for Florida. Sorry, Q. I think we're going to have a great college football season. A lot of questions need to be answered.
You know, you live, breathe, sleep SEC territory. I can't let you start the year off with your outlook of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
I mean, I think over 6.5 is the play. You're talking about a quarterback, running back tandem in KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. Probably one of the best in the country, and that's not any bias. I mean, that's just looking at their stats and what they're capable of, and they're doing it against the best competition out there. I think the 6.5, you're looking at a team that's probably going to start out 3-0, and then there's a tough middle six. I think if you can pick up 1 or 2 wins out of there and then close out going 3-0, I think you're at 7. And I really do think that 7 wins is the floor for this Arkansas team. And after seeing what Florida did last night, I think that's a very winnable game down in Gainesville. So truth be told, I think we're an 8-4 team. 9-3 is not out of the realm of a possibility, though.
Last night on Sports Map Radio, we had Paul Stone on. We had Leanne on. We did talk some SEC. We talked some potential futures, some Final Fours. We know we're talking Georgia and the three-peat. We're talking about Bama. Can Nick get the Crimson Tide back on top? Everyone's sleeper and darling this year is LSU. Excuse me. Who started off an amazing game Sunday. I think it's Sunday night against Florida State in the revenge game last year. If I was to ask you, Matt, if someone was to knock off Georgia this year in the SEC title game, who would that be?
I don't know. I don't know about Carson Beck. I think it's probably an upgrade from Stetson Bennett, but Stetson Bennett was kind of an anomaly. I mean, how great athletically is Stetson Bennett? I wouldn't say very, but he continued to get it done for Georgia. The team, no doubt, around him is going to be great, and I don't think you can ever count out Kirby Smart in this week's schedule. So I do think Georgia is going to end up getting there. Who they play, I think it's going to come down between that Alabama-LSU game. But I wouldn't be surprised if LSU gets there. I think now that, and I was listening to a podcast like with Taylor Lewan, and he was talking about how Alabama was paying players like long before NIL was even a thing, and that may be the case. Who knows? I heard one recruit say that when he went, everybody was driving Chrysler 300s. I don't know a lot of college students that can go buy those, but anyways, I think the playing field is level now with the NIL, and I think you're going to start seeing Nick Saban not fall off because he's the greatest football coach of all time. But I do think Alabama's playing field is more level now to where other teams are going to be able to compete. And I don't know about Jalen Milroe at quarterback. I have a lot of question marks about this Alabama team. Now, one thing I do know is you probably don't want to play a pissed off Nick Saban. And I think he's kind of got these guys a little chip on his shoulder. So I think ultimately it's going to come down to Alabama, LSU. I think LSU, a slight lean there, and I took them plus 180 to win the SEC West. I think that's great value. I think with Jaden Daniels and what they can do, even if they drop the game against Florida State on Sunday, I still think LSU and Brian Kelly has all the makings to take on Alabama to win the West.
That was my next question. Big preseason hype on LSU and also Florida State. So my question to you was going to be, the team that takes the loss in this game, do they still get a shot to get to that Final Four?
I think so, just because the rest of the country is pretty weak outside of, I think, Michigan and Ohio State. I really don't know, and we'll get into my futures bets later. I think USC could be this year's TCU team, even though TCU kind of came out of nowhere last year. Everybody knows what USC is. If their defense can just step up and be okay, I like their chances to make the playoff. Michigan, Ohio State, that's going to come down to probably that last game of the season. I like Michigan, USC, and then I think you're going to get 2 SEC teams in. So we'll see. I hope it's not Ohio State. I have a lot of disdain for Ohio State. So I think if they're 11-1, 10-2, they should probably sit this one out.
A lot of people like Michigan this year. Harbaugh's probably best team he's ever had. There are talks of them running the gamut and getting to the Final Four and not losing and getting actually to that championship game versus Georgia or LSU, Alabama, whoever may be standing. Obviously, Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. and company could put a little fly in the ointment there, but we got a long way to go there till we get to that spot. You talked about futures. We had week 0 last week. We had a couple games last night. As Q's Florida Gators fall to Utah, not even with their number 1 quarterback, a little payback from week 1 last year. What do you have in pocket for futures?
I have a ton, so I'll go ahead and plug it now. You can go to NCAAinsiders.com, click on our bet tracker. There's a tab at the bottom that says MG's 23 college football futures. I've got about 31 plays right now for futures bets. A couple that I'm real heavy on. I've got Michigan to make the college football playoff at even money, LSU plus 180 to win the SEC West, and then USC to make the playoff at plus 225. I've got several season win totals. The ones that have not started their season yet, I was on Wisconsin, which I feel like the whole country's on Wisconsin, over 8.5. I like Texas Tech over 7.5. And I also took Utah over 8.5, which that one's probably unavailable now. And then Penn State at 9.5. I'm looking at their schedule. I think, 10 wins is probably doable. I know they're really high on Aller at quarterback. So I think Penn State's always a dangerous team in the Big 12 or in the Big 10. And then moving over to the Big 12, I've got Texas to win it at plus 110 or 115. Shout out to Tim Murray for putting me on Texas. I still don't know. I can't buy into this the Sark love, but this is going to be his best team he's had at Texas, minus Bijan Robinson. So we'll see. The Big 12 is just so bad. So that kind of worries me a little bit, just because Kansas or Oklahoma, somebody's going to knock off Texas. I feel like he's always going to come up short in the biggest moments. Steve Sarkisian and Mac Brown are both kind of unanimous for doing that. When expectations are high, they underdeliver.
Well, Paul Stone likes Texas as well. He talked about them last night. He even's got them not just covering, but sneaking out a win next week in versus Alabama. What do you think there?
I mean, they should have won last year. I think it's going to be a great game. It just depends on if Quinn Ewers can stay healthy and stay accurate. I do think he can score on the Alabama defense.
Well, we have a short slate tonight, 1, 2, 3, 4 games and 2 small school games, and then a bigger slate, obviously, the rest of the weekend, including Sunday and Monday. If you'd like to tell everyone watching and listening, we got a handful here already, what you're looking at for your plays this weekend.
I like Miami of Ohio tonight. I did take them up to 17.5. I just think with the little drama with Brett Gabbert and him talking about we're going to show him who the real Miami is. And I'm not completely sold on Mario Cristobal as a head coach. I mean, he's a 500 coach, 67-67 coming into year 2 at Miami. And Tyler Van Dyke, he was okay last year, but nothing that jumps off the page. I like this Miami of Ohio team to keep it close, and I think 17 is probably just a little too many.
I had an opening number of 17.5 with a 48.5. Now at circa 16-45. You got a nice number there at 17.5. That was your play tonight. How about the rest of the weekend?
Trying to convince myself that I should lay it with Louisville, but I know a lot of people that I respect they're high on this Georgia Tech team. Another thing is betting splits. I always like to look at those. 79% of the handle is going on Kansas, minus 31.5 tonight. I am higher on this Kansas team than I think a lot of people are. I bet their season win total over 6. I think they're a pretty solid team. They return their quarterback, dual threat guy, and then I know a lot of people are on Hawaii, and that line has dropped down. Stanford, I mean, what happened to Stanford? Long are the days of Christian McCaffrey and Andrew Luck, Bryce Love. They've just fallen off the map when they're minus 3 to Hawaii. So the late night bailout game, we'll see. Rainbow Warriors may get the outright upset. But to go back to your question, to move on to the Saturday slate, I think the one game that is probably not going to be close, but I hope it is, Colorado TCU. Coach Prime, as they call him, Deion Sanders, we'll see what he does. Shadur Sanders is going to step up in competition. It does worry me. He's not a big guy, but TCU's defense, I think let me see how many starters they're returning on defense. They've got 7 returning. Offense is going to look completely different. No Quentin Johnson, no Max Duggan. Chandler Morris, who started as a commit to Arkansas. As you know, Chad Morris, his dad, was our head coach that ran us into the ground. So saw a lot of Chandler Morris there early around campus, and then ultimately went to Oklahoma. Didn't pan out. Now he's at TCU, and I think the best thing that could have happened for TCU, unfortunately for Chandler, is he got hurt in that opening game against Colorado. Max Duggan came in, led them to end up blowing out Colorado in game 1. But that all said, I think Deion Sanders could keep this close with Colorado. I mean, he has got a brand new team. It may be a horrible team, but we'll see how the cohesiveness is for the Buffs. I do like this game to go over. I think TCU, coming off that blowout loss to Georgia in the national championship, they're probably going to try to prove a lot. Colorado's only returning 3 starters on defense. I can't imagine their defense being capable of slowing down Sonny Dykes' offense, especially with Kendall Browse now being added. So I made this line TCU minus 22. It's probably going to be TCU's game the whole way, but hopefully Colorado can put up some points and take this thing over 63.
That, of course, the whole world's on Colorado, and if my eyes don't deceive me, I had a 19 with 59, now currently at circa. Jeffrey Benson and the boys are up to 21 with a 63.5. I think my eyes are going to stick to the not back door of Prime and his Buffs to, maybe sneak in a cover. Like UConn yesterday. Hey, we didn't win, but we covered. But I might be looking at that TCU team total over. And like you said, maybe TCU just runs it up.
Yeah, another one I'm looking at, South Carolina, North Carolina. I think that's going to be a really good game. We get to see Heisman hopeful Drake May, who had an awesome freshman season. And then Spencer Rattler, who's just kind of been up and down. I think he really hadn't lived up to the hype. You got Shane Beamer going into year 3. We'll see what South Carolina can do, but I think ultimately Mac Brown should win this game. I say should. I made this game North Carolina minus 4, so I like North Carolina up to I think it's around 2.5 right now, so I would lay it with North Carolina. I just think Drake May is going to start off his season with a bang, and South Carolina's defense is only returning 4 starters. Coming off an 8-5 record, I just think North Carolina is the better team. And, being in Columbia, I don't think it's going to be that big of a home field advantage for them. But they're hopeful in South Carolina. But, again, I just think it's going to be a letdown for them this year.
My eyes are leaning towards North Carolina, but again, I might try to get cute here, and I do like the over team total in North Carolina as well. It's a great quarterback matchup. No one was hotter than Rattler at the end of the season and what South Carolina did. And like you said, though, he's kind of that Jekyll and Hyde, as TJ did say, game is in Charlotte there. It's going to be interesting. It's a bigger game for North Carolina and May than South Carolina. So it should be a lot of points scored, though. It should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I like Drake May a lot. I think, he could maybe challenge Caleb Williams for the Heisman. And then another one that's kind of off the radar for a lot of people probably is UTSA and Houston. Jeff Traylor, what he's done with the Roadrunners, they're coming in, finishing 11-3 last year. They returned 8 starters on defense, 8 on offense, including Frank Harris, who's been in college for a zillion years. They're taking on Dana Holgerson's Houston Cougars. Donovan Smith, he was a transfer from Texas Tech. You're getting UTSA minus 1.5 right now. I made the line minus 4. I just think UTSA is the better team, and they're experienced. They know what they're doing. Dana Holgerson's kind of known for his up-tempo offense, but I think ultimately UTSA's got the skills on both sides of the ball to be able to win this game.
Expecting a lot of points there. I mean, UTSA, if you were watching the game last year, went to the bathroom, made a sandwich, grabbed a cold one, and sat down, they scored 14 points in a blink of an eye.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. One that I'll probably target the first quarter over. That's one of my favorite bets for college football teams. It's all scripted anyway, so if you can get one at like a 13.5 or 14, I like that to go over.
Are you with modern day technology, with all the spreadsheets out there, wager talks, odd sharks, pregame, spank odds, wherever you get your information, and then add to your information, uh, with the numbers being so sharp, Matt, do you look to get creative? For me, this last fall and winter and part of the summer, a lot of team totals, whether it's in college football, NFL, hockey, MLB. Are you looking to get creative, as like you just said, in the first quarter action?
Yeah, that's something I've kind of always bet on. It's kind of like MLB. I like betting the first inning. It's just easier to get some quantifiable data as far as how teams typically try to score in the beginning. And like I said, when it's all scripted and you have a lot of question marks on defense, I think more times than not you're going to get some points. Now, with the clock rule change, I've noticed a lot have gone under as far as the game totals, but this is something I'm going to monitor. I mean, it's so hard this time of the year. Everything is kind of a big question mark. Uh, all of my stats and analysis all have an asterisk beside it because you just don't know yet until you see the product on the field. I don't really feel comfortable laying a lot. So you just try to pick your spots where you think you do have an advantage. But like you said, they're sharp. All these numbers are sharp. I've had, I think, one game so far where my power ratings were way off from the line, and that was Utah last night. I still made them like a -6.5, 7-point favorite, and that was without Cam Rising, which thankfully that ended up cashing for me. But the under did too, and then Minnesota, that barn burner of the Minnesota-Nebraska game, that was an under all the way. Granted, I had Minnesota -6.5 in that one and fell short, but it is what it is. We live to fight another day, and every game that's played, we get a little bit more data to sharpen our numbers.
That's Saturday. Anything on Sunday or Monday?
Florida State, LSU, just like the rest of the world, I think everybody's itching to bet that game. A little rematch from last year. I think it was like 23-24 or something, the final score last year. I think it's going to be tight. I think Brian Kelly, like I had mentioned earlier, I think he's going to have LSU in a really good spot this season to compete for the West. Mike Norvell's doing really good things at Florida State. This is going to be a great, great matchup, especially for week one when you've got like an Alabama playing Middle Tennessee. You've got Arkansas playing Western Carolina. You've got a LSU and Florida State top 10 matchup. So thank you, football gods. We had to sit through Minnesota, Nebraska last night, but it looks like Sunday we'll get a really good matchup. Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels, two outstanding quarterbacks. This is a coin flip for me. So if you're going to give me plus points on Florida State, I'm taking Florida State.
I've heard I was on LSU early, meaning real early, and it seems like if you go on social media or anyone I talk to is on LSU. So I haven't released it. I'm holding back as we speak. Revenge Brian Kelly. The LSU. Let me see, women's basketball team, baseball team, all national champs. So a lot of people have now taken LSU to be national champs in football this year. I don't think it's. I'm trying to think out loud here. I think it's a bigger game for LSU because if they lose, and then they lose to Alabama, who I think they're 6-point underdogs at Alabama in November, tough to still get to the title game. And if you get to the title game with 2 losses, somehow, some way, you can't lose that game. And in other words, once there hasn't been a 2-loss team in the Final Four since they've had it, and this is the last year with that.
Yeah, if if LSU loses, I really don't think it hurts them. I would actually say that I think this game means more for Florida State because for them, I feel like it's all confidence. If you go into what I think is a pretty weak ACC, I think them or Clemson's going to come out on top. But LSU, hats off to them for scheduling this challenging of a game. But even if they lose it, I still think they could finish 10-2, probably win the SEC West and compete with Georgia. I'm just not. This goes back to Alabama. I'm not high on Alabama. I saw Jalen Milroe play last year. They just don't seem like they have that big, bad, scary Alabama Crimson Tide moniker attached to them anymore. LSU beat them last year in overtime. And last year I thought LSU wasn't as good as they are this year. So to me, I could make a case for both teams as far as how much this game matters. But I think at the end of the day, regardless who loses, I think they're still going to end up with 10 wins, and they're going to have a great season.
Was that your last play of the weekend?
It is for now. I may add a couple more things. It just kind of depends. I'm watching this Texas Tech line. If Wyoming gets down to, or if I can get Texas Tech minus 13.5, I like that a little bit more than minus 14. But outside of that one, there's just some spots that I'm going to try to bet. I like to bet it live too. That's how I won some money on Utah last night as well. Florida kept trying, but you could tell, like, drop passes and dumb penalties. Graham Hurts having concrete in his shoes. I was like, this team is not very good. And I was texting with a buddy that he had bet on Florida before the game had started. And when it was, I guess, 7-3 and Florida was driving to try to go up, he was like, here they come. Here's Florida, SEC. It's like, no, they're going to blow it. Billy Napier, I don't think, is a SEC caliber coach. And I think Brandon Walker with Barstool, he said somebody needs to get this Sun Belt coach and fire him at halftime. Florida is just abysmal. And I think any point where you can start to live bet these, when you see the tempo of the game, go and live bet it, because that's about the only chance you've got to jump back in it where you've got somewhat of an advantage, I feel like, from the book. They've got a lot of lines to keep up with. If you're watching one game, you see the tempo of how teams are going. I always like to try to have a luck rating in that. Like Utah scoring on the first play at 70-yard touchdown. Now that was probably not going to continue to happen, but I know the odds started shifting like crazy when that happened. So just watch it, try to live bet it when you can.
The scroll has been going the whole time, Matt. They can follow you at Grissom Tweets at NCAA Insiders. But we always like to do is we close up the show, which we will be having regularly, people, Fridays, 3 p.m. my time on Back East here. But tell them where to go to get all your information, where to watch UNQ and all your shows.
You can go to NCAAinsiders.com. We'll post all of our plays in a spreadsheet, and then follow us on Twitter at NCAA Insiders. I produce some graphics, which will get a little sharper as the season goes on. There's just not a whole lot of data right now to do a whole lot, but what we put out, we try to add value to the sports betting world, and we do it all for absolutely free. So check us out if you haven't already.
Well, we followed you all through college baseball. We brought a lot more eyes to that sport. Now we're going to come back, circle around. We're going to do some college football with you guys regularly. I know my calendar is marked. I assumed yours is as well. On November 1st, we can start some college hoops as well. The reigning champs from Stores, the Yukon Huskies, trying to defend their national championship, which will be real hard. That's for a whole nother show and month. But we can't thank you guys enough, obviously, for coming back and blessing us on Fridays and getting more eyes on you guys' work. You guys done amazing jobs. Even your spot guests on VSiN. I keep telling you guys, keep the nose to the grind zone, and the social world, Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, is all yours, my brother.
I appreciate you having us on, and we look forward to being here every Friday, try to win y'all some money.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Mr. Matt Grissom at Grissom Tweets at NCAA Insiders, we wish everyone a blessed Friday. Cash some tickets all throughout the weekend. Any questions, comments, complaints, come find me. Go to Matt. Go check his site out. DM him. Ask all the questions you guys want. They're theirs. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate, to cash some tickets, and add a little entertainment. Shout out to TJ. Shout out to Connor. Thank you all for watching us here and asking away. At 5 o'clock, Ron from Ron A Sports will be back with his college edition, breaking down what he sees, not just for week one, but throughout the season. We'll ask him about the rule changes, the clock, et cetera, as Matt was talking about. A lot of unders coming in right now. I'm even noticing some team totals getting stuck on stupid. Is that going to affect them and the totals as well? So everyone enjoy the afternoon, and we'll see you real soon.